Imagine being able to shortcut your understanding of a major business move. Not just the splashy headlines, but really getting the why and the how behind it. Gives you a real edge.
Absolutely. Like seeing the blueprint behind the building.
Exactly. And that's our goal today. We're doing a deep dive into BASF's 2008 acquisition of Ciba.
A really significant move in the chemical space back then.
It was, and we've got some great material to work with, including some really insightful excerpts from a cognitive market research article that kind of dissects the whole thing.
Good stuff. Sets the stage well.
Right. So our mission here is to figure out why BASF found Ciba so attractive, how market research really drove this decision, what the broader industry trends were telling them, and what lessons businesses can pull from this.
And by extension, anyone interested in this kind of strategic thinking.
Precisely. Now, Ciba, they weren't small players. Big presence in plastics, coatings, paper chemicals, and a reputation for, well, real technical know-how and solid customer relationships.
Yeah, they were definitely respected in those niches.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this. What was it about Ciba that made BASF think, okay, this is the one?
Well, what's really fascinating when you look at it, it wasn't just about grabbing market share. It aligned perfectly with BASF's bigger strategy.
Okay.
Ciba had, like you said, carved out this strong brand in specialty markets. Plastics, coatings, paper chemicals. And these were the exact areas BASF's own internal research had flagged for growth.
Ah, so BASF already knew they wanted to grow there.
Exactly. Their research saw huge potential driven by demand for things like lightweight materials for cars, for fuel efficiency.
Right, that was becoming huge.
And UV-stable polymers for stuff that sits outdoors, and those really advanced coatings for cars and buildings. Ciba's brand wasn't just a name. It was tied to innovation, often being first with solutions for tough problems.
That problem-solving reputation must have been key.
Definitely. BASF's research would have highlighted that. It's about more than just the product. It's the expertise.
Right, because you definitely want those car parts to last, and buildings need to handle the elements. And Ciba was strong in additives and stabilizers. How did that fit into BASF's plans?
That was really strategic. See, additives and stabilizers, they're not just basic chemicals. They're the special ingredients that make materials tougher, last longer against heat or sunlight, perform better overall.
Got it. The secret sauce, kinda.
Pretty much. So by acquiring Ciba, BASF wasn't just getting more products. They were seriously boosting their innovation capability, diversifying into these higher value specialty areas, moving away from the ups and downs of basic commodity chemical.
Okay, so it's like BASF had the flour and water,
Yeah,
and Ciba brought the really complex yeasts and spices to make much better bread.
that's a great analogy, actually. Yeah, high value formulations.
Makes sense. So it's about the ingredients that add real value. And it wasn't just what Ciba made, right? The article mentions their foothold in emerging markets.
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge piece of the puzzle. Critical, really.
How's-
Well, BASF's own market intelligence, their forecasting, it was showing much faster growth curves in places like Asia and Latin America.
Yeah.
For those key industries, automotive, construction, packaging,
And Ciba was already there.
already established, manufacturing plants, distribution, customer lists, the works. For BASF, buying Ciba was like hitting the fast-forward button in those regions.
Wow. Instant access.
Instant access to high-growth markets. Instead of spending years and a ton of capital building it all from the ground up, you're essentially buying market share and a working operation.
So it was multi-layered. Products, geography, customer base. It all lined up. Now, you've mentioned BASF's research a few times. The article really hammers home how crucial market research was here. What kind of research are we talking about? What were they actually doing?
Yeah, and this really speaks to how smart companies make big bets. It wasn't guesswork. BASF was systematically gathering intel. They used competitor benchmarking, looking closely at what Ciba's rivals were up to, their strengths, weaknesses, tech focus.
So keeping tabs on the competition.
For sure. Probably analyzing R&D spend, patent filings, that sort of thing. Plus, they did deep dive client interviews, really talking to customers in those target industries to understand their pain points, what they need next.
Getting the voice of the customer.
Exactly. And technology road mapping too, trying to anticipate where the tech was heading, what kinds of materials and additives would be hot in, say, 5 or 10 years.
So looking beyond the immediate horizon, trying
Sure.
to skate to where the puck was going to be, basically, what specific needs did all that digging turn up?
Well, a few key things emerged. Customers increasingly wanted multifunctional additives, single ingredients that could do several jobs in a formulation. Simpler, maybe better performance.
Makes sense. Efficiency.
Right. And a big push for greener, more environmentally friendly formulations that was driven by consumers, but also looming regulations.
Always a factor.
Definitely. And also demand for application-specific performance. Materials tailored exactly for a niche use, like a specific medical-grade plastic or super durable marine coating. Off the shelf wasn't always cutting it anymore.
Right, tailor-made solutions for complex problems. The article also mentions faster product development and closer collaboration being important.
Yeah, that came through loud and clear. Customers, especially in fields like automotive coatings or high-performance plastics, they wanted new stuff faster.
Time to market is critical.
Totally. And they wanted to work more closely with suppliers, not just order takers, but real innovation partners.
Like co-developing solutions.
Exactly. And BASF's research confirmed that Ciba's model, with their customer-focused R&D and application centers, was a really good match for this. Their voice of customer work with the big manufacturers, the OEMs, and converters, it validated that Ciba's collaborative style was highly valued.
So Ciba wasn't just selling chemicals, they were selling expertise and partnership. Okay, and then there's the whole sustainability angle. Huge topic now, increasingly so back then too. How did market research play into that?
Well, the bigger picture, those macroeconomic studies, they were clearly signaling that chemical companies needed to reduce their environmental footprint. Regulations like REACH in Europe were a huge signpost.
A game changer, really.
Absolutely. BASF's research would have definitely flagged sustainability as critical for customers and, frankly, for long-term license to operate. Now, the interesting part is Ciba was already ahead of the curve there.
Oh, really? How so?
They'd already made real progress, developing eco-friendlier products, building up regulatory expertise. This wasn't just a nice-to-have, it was a real competitive advantage that lined up perfectly with where BASF wanted to go on sustainability.
So the research confirmed the market fit and the regulatory fit.
Precisely. It validated the deal from multiple angles: market demand, technology, geography, and the increasingly important environmental and regulatory perspective.
Ah,
Very thorough process.
it really sounds like it. Okay, let's maybe zoom out for a second. What was happening in the broader chemical industry around 2008 that made this acquisition feel particularly smart or timely?
Yeah, good question. The industry was definitely shifting gears around then. The old model of just competing on volume, making tons of basic stuff cheaply, that was changing
Towards what?
towards value, differentiation. Customers wanted more than just molecules. They wanted suppliers who could help them innovate, solve complex problems, navigate local rules, provide long-term support, co-development partners, like we said.
Right, more of a service and solutions approach.
Exactly. And all the market forecasts were pointing the same way. Specialty chemicals were set to outgrow the basic commodity stuff, driven by booming sectors like electronics, healthcare, advanced packaging, green construction.
And Ciba's strength lined up with those growth areas.
Perfectly. Their core businesses: plastic stabilizers for durability, high-performance pigments for coatings, specialized water treatment chemicals. These are all feeding directly into those expanding industries.
Like electronics needing better plastics, construction needing better coatings.
And the growing need for clean water solutions. It was a direct alignment with the high-growth pockets of the market.
Okay. And that sustainability piece we keep coming back to. How did Ciba's focus there fit into these bigger industry shifts?
While sustainability was rapidly moving from the fringes to the center stage, it was becoming non-negotiable. Analysts were predicting much tougher environmental standards globally.
You could see it coming.
You could. And Ciba's work on biodegradable materials, low VOC products, that was really forward-thinking for the time. It put them in a great spot not just to comply, but to actually help their customers meet their own sustainability targets.
So it was a competitive advantage, not just a compliance issue.
Definitely. It positioned them, and by extension BASF after the acquisition, very favorably for the future regulatory landscape and customer demands.
So they weren't just reacting, they were anticipating, getting ahead of the curve. Okay, so the deal goes through, acquisition's done. How did BASF handle the integration? Merging two big companies, especially with strong R&D cultures, that's never easy.
No, it's notoriously tricky. But the article suggests BASF was very deliberate about it. They had a structured process. It wasn't just swallowing Ciba whole. They focused on reorganizing Ciba's operations to align with BASF's global structure and business units.
Finding the right places for everything.
Right. And crucially, they set up joint innovation programs, shared technology centers, spaces where researchers from both sides could actually work together, share knowledge, and speed up the development of new products.
Smart. Mixing the DNA.
Yeah, and they made a real effort to keep key R&D talent from Ciba. They knew that knowledge was a huge part of the value. Then they combined that talent with BASF's strengths, scale, process efficiency, global reach.
Trying to get the best of both worlds. You mentioned the due diligence data earlier. How did they use that information during the integration itself?
That pre-merger homework was vital. It gave them detailed data on, product synergies where Ciba's stuff complemented BASF's market overlaps where they could maybe streamline things, and importantly, where they could find cost savings.
So that data became the integration roadmap.
Essentially, yes. It allowed the integration teams to make data-driven decisions about how to combine things efficiently and capture those expected benefits, avoid some of the usual guesswork.
And what about driving new innovation after the merger? How did they leverage the combined tech muscle?
That's where the potential really started to unlock. BASF's plan was to take Ciba's product lines and enhance them using BASF's tech platforms and digital tools.
Like an upgrade.
Exactly. A good example is combining Ciba's top-notch UV stabilizers, the stuff that stops materials degrading in sunlight, with BASF's own deep polymer research. That opened doors for creating much longer-lasting, higher-performance materials for things like packaging or automotive coatings.
Real synergy there.
Definitely. Plus, BASF invested heavily in digital simulation, basically virtual labs, to speed up testing new formulations. Cut down that time to market we talked about.
Using tech to accelerate R&D.
Right, and market research didn't stop after the deal closed. They kept using it to prioritize R&D projects, understand changing customer needs, and fine-tune how they took products to market in different regions. It was an ongoing process.
A very systematic, future-focused approach. Okay, so bringing this all together for our listeners.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways here? What can other businesses, or anyone interested in strategy, learn from this BASF Ciba story?
I think the biggest thing is the power of data-driven decisions in M&A. BASF's move wasn't just about getting bigger. It was incredibly strategic. They identified a partner whose strengths perfectly complemented theirs and addressed future market needs.
It wasn't just acquiring scale, it was acquiring specific capabilities for the future.
Exactly. Successful expansion isn't just about capacity. It's about understanding where the market is going and buying the pieces you need to win there. This disciplined, research-led approach helps manage risk and maximize long-term value.
That makes a lot of sense, having that foresight, looking beyond the next quarter, and really understanding future customer needs, and finding partners who fill those gaps.
Precisely, and it highlights how important ongoing research is, and bringing in different perspectives, R&D, marketing, sales, ops, when planning something like this. It's not just a finance deal.
Right, it takes a village, so to speak.
It does. And it frames M&A differently, doesn't it? Not just a transaction, but potentially a massive innovation accelerator, a way to gain a real competitive edge.
And that sustainability angle just keeps popping up as crucial.
It does, and it's a key lesson. Aligning acquisitions with long-term sustainability trends and regulations is vital now. Ciba already had a strong foundation there, which gave BASF a huge leg up.
So acquiring that expertise saved them time and positioned them better.
Absolutely. For companies in technical regulated fields, looking ahead at those environmental demands and customer expectations around sustainability isn't just good practice, it's smart strategy. It provides a lasting advantage.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's just quickly anchor this with that fast fact from the article again. BASF acquired Ciba in 2008 for $3.8 billion, a significant investment.
Huge. And it massively boosted their position in performance chemicals, UV stabilizers, water treatment, coatings, making them a leader in specialty innovation and sustainable solutions.
So wrapping up this deep dive, BASF's acquisition of Ciba really stands out as a move driven by deep market understanding, reacting smartly to industry shifts, and focusing squarely on future growth in high-value specialty and sustainable chemicals.
Yeah, and the integration plan was key, leveraging both companies' strengths to boost innovation and market reach. Not just buying, but building something stronger together.
And hopefully, for everyone listening, digging into this case study offers some valuable insights into business strategy, the power of market analysis, and why aligning with future trends is so critical.
Absolutely. It's a masterclass in strategic foresight, really.
So here's a final thought to chew on. Considering how BASF integrated Ciba's sustainability focus, what emerging global challenges think climate change, resource scarcity, maybe something else do you think will drive the next big wave of strategic acquisitions and innovations across different industries?
That's a great question to ponder. Where will the next Ciba-like opportunities emerge?
Something to think about. It really highlights the value of that proactive, research-driven approach. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.